I don't know what happened there. Um, it should be getting my book now because the little bar is moving as opposed to before. Good news is I can just go ahead and delete that other file and not have to worry about putting up with music on it. Um, Apparently somehow when I went to turn it off, it killed my mic. But we are back, and I hopefully have screwed this up horribly. Hooray! I have fixed it. Um, so we have a one for each of them, really, so far that I've seen for votes. Somebody was torn between 3 and 4, and a couple of the people haven't really said much of anything either way. But vote 4, still voting for. All right, that's a bunch of people on 4. Um, I guess we will go with 4 then, because I believe that was the one that had like 3 votes already. Just get rid of these other guys. All right, so there she is. Let me bust open my Hero Lab now and get that on over here, which I will then need to fix. Can't really tell that. All right, well, that was. I don't want to say quick, but we do have our basis nowadays. Um, as we are going into this anticipating making a decker, there are certain things that are already prerequisites. For one is resources A, because matrix stuff is expensive, yo. It's probably because you're on a Mac Nile. I imagine that is the problem. Apparently, I was getting called there from. Just cancel that out. So where do you guys want to start? Do we think she's a human or an elf? Or maybe even a dwarf? Kind of hard to tell with all of that gear all over the place. Uh, we have our resources in place. We will kind of decide on the how much oomph her deck has after the point. I can give you a link to the picture. Um, I'm terrible at Twitch, so I don't really know how to try and make it do both things at once. Could try and do a thing. Um, does that work for you guys? We can have her picture there, and we'll have should be most of the business stuff would still be shown. Awesome. We should probably start with the basic thing. I Niall, if you wanted to, you totally could. This is more of just like a group type thing where we're going to then use these for my GM games. Um, so yeah. Um, should we just start with meta type? Human. Yet another edge lord. Well, in this situation, it is kind of a question. Her general background. We know that she's not actually a troll or uh, orc, but she could be an elf in there. Each not seeing the ears, and her background that she is in doesn't necessarily preclude her from being a dwarf. Trying to kind of expand the uh, that was part of it. That was part of where I was going with that, Papa. Um, be nice to mix it up, but it doesn't necessarily have to be mixed up. This could very easily be a group of bunch of humans that currently work a whole lot for Humanus. Or I could try and find some. She could totally be Elven. Um, get a both dwarf, elf. Uh-oh, we got a battle going on. Give it up to the tiebreaker of the next person who says one or the other. I guess the next person that says something that's not one of the two that already voted. That's the fair way of doing things. Well, we don't necessarily have to give up uh, that much in efforts. All right. Gwyn has broken it for elf. We'll go over here and we'll throw on the human-looking quality. Oh man, Papa's coming up with the details. All right, you guys think dwarf? You think? Let's go with the dwarf. Let's get crazy. Oops, as I ruin everything. Just going to spend a moment to kind of even everything out with my very limited attribute points because dwarf. And we can obviously always come back and tweak these a little bit just because Hero Lab is great and doesn't have to make it any kind of craziness. I know Chummer sometimes has the issue when you want to change priorities on an already created character. Well, even right there, that starts off. That's probably going to be in the armorer skill. It's just going to add in some of the basics that you need for every Shadowrunner to be relevant. Do you guys think electronics group or cracking group as her 5 group points for what we have so far? Or should we get really crazy and go skills A and money B and just go nuts? Won't be as good as uh, a dagger, but we'll have the opportunity to do a lot of different things that the group might need. Stick with money A. All right, stick with money A then. All right, we will tweak it, and depending upon where things take us, because we are designing this as part of a team, so those could very easily not be all of her guns, and she could just be doing maintenance among those things. Um, which I will mentally note to tweak and drop Gremlin, switch with something else, but that's not important. There's some basic stuff in here. I think just 5-5 on cracking an electronics group, kind of. The data trial stuff is totally an option. I have all of the currently released data packages for Hero Lab, so we can use anything that up to, it doesn't have hard targets or rigor 5 in it, but all the rest of the stuff I have. So let's get into a little bit more of what we can um, divine from her stuff, not mechanically. Um, we've got the armor in here because she's obviously taking care of all of the guns and that kind of stuff. We have her necessary hacking and computer skills. Um, do you think that she maybe is boots on the ground, or do you think she's more sit in the van? Because that could easily be the back of a van that she is working out of rather than the Street Sam's apartment that was mentioned. Boots on the ground. All right. So we're gonna throw in the athletics group just at a 1, just because it is really helpful to have, as you don't want to be the one that's defaulting on your running test when you need to make a running test. Um, do you think she's also? Do you think she also does some medical stuff? Do you think she's got a softer side with just no bedside manner from her attitude look, or any of the other major technical based skills, any of that kind of study? Things like chemistry, demolitions, first aid, medicine. There's a lot of stuff that we could choose in that area. As uncomfortable as that sounds like it would be to do, I could totally see her doing that. Maybe she does less of the first aid and things and more of the hardware style stuff. Taking care of the team's cyberware, their guns, their hardware. At current, um, I've posted up a sheet for a Gremlin that does the engineering group and some of that kind of stuff. We can totally throw cyber technology on here. Throw a couple of points in that. Um, I am going to use a little unfortunate cheating to give her a little more oomph. Her arm is probably more of a tool um, than it is a weapon. So then let's just add, I feel like a hardware kit to her arm. She totally does have 2 arms. I missed that. Um, Man, this is gonna quickly cut into all of our money. We might end up having to switch that back, guys. Sorry. I'm just gonna put in here that is totally appropriate and not super expensive. So we don't have much money. Let's figure out what kind of deck we want to give her, because that's probably gonna eat most of our money. It'll be the biggest hint on whether or not which areas of things we're gonna need to tweak as far as our priorities to get it to work out properly. Micro deck as tech deck. Never actually played a decker for a long time. So I will kind of open that question up to you guys. Can you get by on an Azteca, or the Tsurgi is way out of our price range? It's 214,000, and it's a lot of money that we don't really have right now. That is, unless we twist our priorities, but then we got to tweak our skills, which is something that can be done. So we're just gonna throw that on there. Um, the what should we call it? Programs. I'm not gonna worry about clicking all of those things on there. It's a lot of work that isn't that important right now. Her her two arms. Do you think that she has the one tweaked out for a weapon, or mostly just kind of? I mean, sure. You think this might be the person that does the breaking and entering stuff? Because I have a hardware kit in the one. So I'll go into this one. Let's not do this. Let's do a smuggling department. Smuggling department, and then inside that, I will toss a. Um, so I'll go back over here to her skills, and let's throw some locksmithing in. And if we have extra money, um, we can go back into her arms and boost her agility up so she's a little bit better at the whole breaking and entering thing. This way, granted, it's not super difficult to do anyway, but it would be nice to be easier to do it. Um, we'll have her go over into her gear and begin to add a bunch of breaking and entering stuff. Data. Lockpick mega capacity. Alright, that is a good place to start for her lockpicking gear. Um, so we have 25 skill points left on her A build. Have a bunch of lockpicking, a bunch of sneaking, and perception dice. Actually, let's go back to qualities for a second. We have human looking on there to kind of facilitate where we're going with this. I feel like, so click back over to her, she's probably a good fit for analytical mind, given all of the things that are going on around her. She seems to be kind of processing through it. Scroll down real quick. So, getting the feeling for a couple of things. Perhaps the Cyber Singularity Seeker. This way, give her a little boost of her willpower. Maybe she really likes the feel of chrome pressed against flesh, as it were, and is looking to kind of finish things out. Redliner is a nice choice to boost her attributes. That would be always good to have. Things like perfect time and quick config would be great on a decker that's going to be jumping around and doing a lot of crazy things. We could go that way, or we could go with the other stuff. How you guys feeling? So she's got a real dwarf pride thing going on. All right, I could feel that. Let's get in here to her negative qualities then. Sounds a little bit like vindictive, or maybe a prejudice. What do you guys feel? Yeah, prejudice is it's a nice thing to pop up, but for some situations, prejudice comment human doesn't like humans at all. I I feel like if we're gonna do a prejudice based upon her dislike of being called a human, um, it's gonna have to at least be outspoken so that when it is brought up, she can't. It isn't intentional for her to just kind of shrug it off as that, but for her to actually get a little angry about it. What was that Decker quality that um made you have to get back in there and edit their stuff? Nerd rage. This character is more comfortable with machines than individuals. Whenever the character fails a social test, whether he initiated or was the target of one, the character takes an extremely personal and feels deeply humiliated about the encounter. Subsequent build better feelings, stuff. They suffer a -2 dice penalty to all social tests. However, the character can remove this penalty by getting back to target by gaining 1 mark on their comlink and performing an edit file action to deface it. You know what? Prejudice might not be the thing we're looking for that. It might be a social stress instead. has the same uh, negative social penalties from the prejudice, but is a more appropriate thing. Being mistaken. Uh, what else here would be good? We have 13 points of negative qualities that we could. Social stress is actually in the core book. It's just an often overlooked quality. I'll read it off to you real quick while you flip through the book. Whether as a result of a loss or trauma or due to innate psychological makeup, the social stress quality burdens the character with emotions that interfere with his ability to interact with others. Special cause and trigger for the social stress must be established, which in this case is being mistaken for a human. Um, when a character using leadership or etiquette skills reduce the number of ones required to glitch on this test by 1. Game Master should call for more social tests for characters with social stress to determine how the character reacts to the other. So it's not doesn't have uh, a big impact, but it lends itself to a lot of opportunities for interesting RP situations. Yeah, right. Um, Part of me wants to put "Did you just call me stupid" on there. Um, but at this point, we have two qualities that work strongly together, and I don't want to double dip and triple dip and that kind of stuff. It's kind of like a lost opportunity to flesh out who the character is. Like, we don't want people to look at the sheet and go, "Oh, she just hates being mistaken for a human." That's the only thing I see here. Um, that kind of stuff. I do want to put in here as a knowledge skill racist jokes with a specialization in dwarves, because that seems potentially hilarious, and given the slight racial overtures to her, I feel like that would be a good way of coming up with some things that she might know. Uh, Dwarven culture. See what other kind of interesting qualities we can get in here. So I like to imagine it as um, one of those situations where people will tell those kind of jokes and stuff. Um, this is actually a idea I'm stealing from one of my other characters, Seamus, who had a prejudice against people who were racist against dwarves or that kind of thing, where he had a knowledge scale of short jokes, so that when people would be like, "Oh, well, beginning of a short joke," I could like roll the knowledge scale, and with enough hits, it's like I know the punchline, and I could throw the punchline back in their face, and they get all angry about it. It's like, "Oh, what? It's because I'm a dwarf," and just like hit them that way. Yeah, exactly. Um, Trying to think about what else she might have. So I'm looking at vendetta, and I feel like we could invent a group of people that she had upset. I know there's a couple of um, gangs that are matrixly oriented, which actually reminds me about Prank Warrior. We could have that in there too, but that's starting to get way over on our amount of negative qualities we can have. How do you guys feel about college education or um, the technical school one? Think she went to school, or do you think she went straight into the shadows? That was part of what I was thinking. I'll let you guys come on with her real name, and then we're gonna go with a little bit of power gamey stuff. Uh, we're gonna get perfect time and quick configurator because they are incredibly strong. Short temper? What's that supposed to mean? Ooh, is there a discrete? That's not possibly spell. I like it. I'm trying to find a way to um represent the yeah. Sure, we'll throw big regret on there. I personally don't like the quality a whole lot because it feels like bad rep 2.0, but we can throw it on there. And actually, let me just read it. So if it has to be something truly unpleasant, it decreases your social limit by 3 against anyone who knows about their past, which this could result in a case of blackmail if the wrong person knows about the truth. This character cannot buy off this quality unless it becomes public, at which point the game won notoriety and must buy it off. But some of the descriptions they gave on here is like, you spent time as a Bunroku puppet, or you were part of a major political affair, or some kind of corporate project. That's 8. Um, going over our budget isn't that big of a deal, I don't think. Um, so long as it makes sense. Like if we went with a Corp Limited instead of a Center National just to fill up our negative qualities, but it doesn't really do anything for us. Um, well, here we go. Um, What if she got into drugs? Little family curse, little dry addict. That is why she's fallen out of school. Cerebrax. I need to quick look at Cerebrax does. I remember it making you super smart. Was that Hard Targets book, Gwen? Or am I just being blind? Yeah, well, the owl's an idiot and almost got beat up by Rose. A great thing. That's why I wasn't fighting, because it's not character legal. I had the character legal thing clicked on. Oh, it is dread. I feel like that might be a little. I with the idea of the technical school education and that kind of stuff, I don't see beetles being nearly as appropriate as something like Cereprax, because beetles are things that drug use. This just helps me study better. Does that make sense to you guys? As we hit more a little bit. Yeah, the mood chips sound like a thing you would take at a party, though, where this seems more of I need to get my hands on it so I can cram for a test. Um, Given as we are going with the technical school education, I feel like I want to throw a couple of points of things like chemistry and uh, medicine in there. That would just be normal stuff that she picks up as she goes through her classes. I Hot sim as an addiction is something that I really hate. because most of the time, and it may be because I just play a lot on the hub, um, but everybody's like, oh, going hot sim to hack a thing, going hot sim to hack another thing. Um, it would end up with a lot of dead deckers, just because every time you use it's like, well, time to test, and sooner or later those dices are going to fail you, and um, your character's just going to die. Like, it'll take a little bit of time, but so let's go in here to her knowledge skills for a moment. Add drugs, then academic. We can also add security procedures, the matrix spec. I like it. I feel like we should throw a specialization on there on top of it to, because like one random point in leadership doesn't show where it came from. Where if we throw a spec on top of it, it could be um, how she uses it. I imagine it like a debate club type situation. Um, I feel like I gotta open my book to double check which one these are. Because I feel like either the rally or the direct uh, spec is what we're looking for in this situation. Etiquette academic is another good one. In character generation, a spec is one skill point. But yes, in play it is 7. It gets super expensive. I feel like rally might be the best choice in that situation. I'm just gonna pop open the book and take a look at it real quick. So command makes them. I think it would be command to go with your thing. Command is for every hit you get, the target accepts you as their leader for 1 combat turn. Rally is your subordinates add 1 to their initiative for every 2 hits you get. Command is kind of like you're gonna listen to me, where rally is like, all right, yay, go guys, go. Direct is makes a teamwork test, and inspire increases your surprise test for some combat turns. That's kind of bad. So rally or command? So we have okay. it could make sense because if you're doing like a public speaking course to drum up support for something, it could be the person who's out there um, trying to organize a protest. Um, so just looking at her real quick, we have 13 skill points left we can spend, and we have no form of self-defense yet. No weapon skills at all, and that kind of stuff. Um, as we were talking earlier about, she's kind of boots on the ground. Are we still sticking with that, or have we kind of changed our feeling about that a little? Can easily fit in a couple of points of unarmed combat and some kind of like dodge plus pistols. We're gonna end up with everybody on the team using pistols, which isn't a bad thing. Pistols are great, but so 8 skill points left. Is there anything you guys feel like we should do, or do you guys want to boost up some of the things that she already has? Yeah, we can go back into her arm actually, in her other arm, which still has 5 capacity left, and throw another smuggling compartment in that guy. So we have the space and the money. That is also a good point, Gwen. Let's see how much a cyber costs. Let's go with the. Do you think she has more cyberware than that, or what? I don't see her having things like bones or ortho skin or something along those lines. We're a little tweaked on Nguyen just so we can't really afford the cerebellum booster and that kind of stuff. What did you mean, Gwen? I'll throw a data check on there. Forgot about that. Oh, duh. How could I forget, like, the most OP Bioware of the game?